Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right. Hello, and welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have Merci McKinley, author, Empowermet Coach, Motivational Speaker, Philanthropist, and founder of Inspiration to Empower. How you doing, Merci? Welcome.
I'm doing just fine. Thank you. How are you?
I am good. And you are a local resident here in the DMV area, so this is great.
Yes.
Yeah, because, I interview so many people who are outside of the area, so it's always great to have, my sister next door, because I'm right here in Virginia and right there in Largo, Maryland, to my understanding.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I'm right here in Alexandria, so we're pretty close to each other. So I'm really looking forward to doing this interview today. And why don't you just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Merci McKinley, and I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland. I'm the owner of Inspiration to Empower Press, which is a publishing imprint that publishes motivational content which is really designed to empower others to live a life with faith, resilience, perseverance, and self-esteem. So that's pretty much what I focus on, is trying to produce motivational content to help people that are struggling, those that went through traumatic experiences, such as myself, and just giving them the motivation and the inspiration necessary to continue on in spite of and in the midst of their circumstances.
All right.
So that's what I've been doing for the past 2 years.
Okay. Well, it sounds like that you are very busy, but I want to kind of backtrack a little bit. So tell me a little bit more about you personally. Now, are you born and raised from this area?
Well, I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, but I was raised in Prince George's County, Maryland. So, yes, right here in the Oxon Hill.
Okay.
Yes, the great Oxon Hill.
All righty. So, tell me a little bit about how or what made you decide to get into the business that you're in currently.
Well, I always used to enjoy writing. Growing up, I'm a firm believer that I was given two gifts by God. The first gift was the ability to draw, anything creative, artistic, I was all over it. And then the second gift was the ability to write. Now, I can't draw as well as I used to growing up, but one thing that's never changed about me was the fact that I'm able to write, and I after so many years, because I used to be in the military, one day I just read Langston Hughes' poem, because I used to read a lot of Langston Hughes while I was growing up. And his poem inspired me, where it says, "A dream delayed is a dream deferred." So one day I just said, hey, I've been having a goal and a dream for so long, ever since I was about 12 years old, to actually become a published author, to be a writer, to just be able to put out those creative content out to the world. And one day I said, hey, I'm going to stop talking about it and actually start being about it. Mm-hmm. So it kind of drove me to get out there and do what it is that I ultimately wanted to do. So originally, I participated in several anthologies in the past.
Okay.
And after completing that, I said, hey, I want to branch out on my own. I want to be able to build something in the publishing industry. And that's pretty much how I got started.
Okay. I love the story. I mean, I love the fact that you're ex-military, and so am I. So we got two vets here.
Hey.
There you go.
I'm Army. How about you?
I'm sorry.
I was in the Army. How about yourself?
I did Navy, and then when I did my reserve duty, I went Army. So I actually switched over.
Okay. I say whore.
Whore, that's right. So yeah, yes. I'm playing both, So, But I guess, I think that your story is amazing, but you also sing or you write songs too?
Yes, I am a lyricist. I can't sing worth a lick, but I am a lyricist,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because growing up, I started out more so as a poet. That's been with me ever since the age of 9. And I'm a lyricist now. So what I do is I try to write songs in relations to the current times that we're living in,
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of give everybody a motivational boost to say, hey, I know that this is how it is right now, but if you keep digging deep, I promise you it's going to get better. So
Absolutely.
I'm more of a lyricist, and I brand myself as a lyricist with a conscience.
I like that. I like that because I know when I was looking up and doing a little research, and I was like, wow, she sings too. Because don't you actually do though have a song, right? Or I thought I had read that.
Yes, yes. I have a single that I wrote that's actually going to hit the digital outlets on January 31st, which is tomorrow.
Wow.
Um, yeah. And it's called Silent for Too Long.
Okay.
And it just really it's designed to keep the voice of the survivor at the forefront of the Me Too movement that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though you and I both know, and the world knows that the Me Too movement has been around for slightly over a decade, but it's
Right.
just now catching fire.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would go on social media and I would read so many of the comments, the backlash, the victimizing, and everything else under the sun. And I kind of like wanted to create something to tell those survivors out there to keep going strong,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
and to not listen to the naysayers and everybody that's coming up on social media, and then, people that's intending to make a mockery of the movement,
Mm-hmm.
like in the midst of it, just keep going strong. So that's pretty much what Silent for Too Long is about. It's just saying, hey, I recognize some of the survivors out there have been silent for too long, but they should be proud of themselves for coming out the shadows and standing tall, and
Mm-hmm.
doing what they need to do to keep this movement going. Because
Exactly.
also, yeah, because ultimately, a movement of this magnitude, I don't want it to be like, and I know I'm kind of straying off subject because I'm
No,
pretty
it's okay.
I as the movement in general, I didn't want it to become like what's a trend. Like, okay, so it's a trend now, and then it kind of fizzles out and fades in the wind, die down.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted to prevent that. So I said, if I can create something that can keep other survivors out there still motivated, then I'm contributing to the movement in some shape or form. I don't know if that makes sense, but it kind of made sense to me when I said, hey, I got to write this.
Right. No, but it does. And like you said, it's been around a lot longer than what people even could convey or understand. We've seen it through all the years in the military, outside of the military. I mean, so many different things that have gone on that a lot of people just keep to themselves. And a part of it is because you just don't know. We always think the reaction is always going to be negative, and 90% of the time it is. And, it's good that women are starting to stand up for themselves and do for themselves, because we are stronger than what we give ourselves credit for, and we deserve to be led in a way of respect. And granted, we have to respect ourselves, but at the same token, we earn everything that we do. And it's about time that people see that and respect us for what we are accomplishing and what we are creating in the world that we live in. So
Yes.
every little bit helps, no matter how you decide to do it, whether, like you said, it's writing a song, or whether you're writing a book, or if you're out here doing speaking engagements. As long as you're standing up on the platform that you utilize and you're doing something positive, I think it's all worth every minute. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So let me just ask you a couple more questions here. So you've been in the business that you're in for the last couple of years. Tell me some of the challenges that you've been facing once you decided to start this business.
I think the challenge that I've been facing is the promotion aspect of things. Because it takes a lot to, first and foremost, it takes a lot to say, hey, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a book. you know,
Mm-hmm.
and go through that path of authorship. But it's a whole different animal to kind of like promote your work, get yourself out there, make the connections necessary. And I think that's where I've had the most difficulty. But I'm very persistent in what it is that I'm ultimately trying to accomplish. So, and I guess it must be the veteran in me that's going to keep it going forward.
There you go. There
you
you
know.
go. Yeah.
But
But you know,
that's the most difficult aspect of it. You know, the writing and the creating. I mean, that was sort of easier
mm-hmm.
in a sense, but it's just the promotion and really trying to connect with readers out there, but more so trying to connect with my tribe. You know, and I don't want to exclude, I don't want to exclude the market out there, but I specifically try to craft things to motivate the woman that is sitting where I once was sitting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because coming from the traumatic experiences I've had to face, you know, and I'm not ashamed to say this, you know, I used to sit and face the four walls and, you know, not and paralyzed in a sense, mentally paralyzed to my traumatic experiences. So once I came out on the other side, I wanted to create motivational content for the other woman that is sitting where I once was to say, hey, I know where you're sitting at right now, but you can definitely make it. So it's I think the biggest struggle out there for me is reaching that particular woman, reaching that audience that I specifically want to create and craft things for.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah.
Right. And they're definitely out there, and that's the key. You know, there's so many women who, like you said, who are going through what you've been through, and they're trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel and not understanding how to get there, or trying to prevent somebody so that they don't have to go that route. You know, there's so many pressures today that are going on with people, and sometimes it's easier just to shut down, but that's not always the answer, and it's not always the right answer. And so, you know, we always have to have someone like you in the community that can uplift other women or uplift any other individual, whether it's male, that may need that, because like you said, you know the struggles, and you're trying to prevent people from having to go down that path.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it's definitely, I'm sure that it is a challenge, but I'm sure that there's a lot of different organizations that maybe, you know, that could help if you could reach out to them, you know, depending on what the age bracket of the audience that you're trying to reach out to and the other programs that may be available. And with you being an author, you know, there's definitely some opportunity out here for some book festivals and stuff where you may be able to meet other individuals that you can collaborate with and, you know, communicate with too. So that might be some things that could be helpful to get you more connected in the way that you want to be with the community.
Yeah.
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 All right. And so tell me then, you know, you obviously have some success. So talk a little bit about your successes and what you feel has been one of your biggest accomplishments, besides when you decided that one day that, hey, I'm going to do this for myself. That's a great accomplishment. But what else, I guess, really stands out for you?
I think the ability to provide a path for others. You know, being able to assist my 7-year-old niece, as well as the 5-year-old youth author that's in Baltimore, to be able to work with them and craft a product for their audience, for their peer group, to help nurture their self-esteem, and simultaneously give them a product that they can build residual income on. And as they grow older, they can expand it into different areas. That's my greatest accomplishment thus far in this line of work. And, you know, and even though I had the same struggles with getting their projects off the ground, I'm still proud of the fact that it's something that can be a part of their foundation, and they can go and grow it with their mothers and create different avenues of opportunities for themselves. So that's my biggest accomplishment thus far.
And it's a great accomplishment. You know, when you can show somebody how they can change their life, and you were a part of that, and that's a heck of an accomplishment to have. So just keep moving forward, keep on striving, and keep on grinding, as I always say,
Yes.
Because they'll continue to keep coming as long as you're giving them everything they need to have, and the word will constantly get out there. Because like I said, there are so many people out there who need your coaching, your empowerment and understanding. Like I said, all the things that are the drama that goes on around us every day. Even though we may need that for ourselves, sometimes it always makes you feel better when you're able to help somebody else.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So, continue, like I say, do good works. Talk to me a little bit though about your book. What is the name of your book?
The name of my book is The Harvest. And what it is my way of first acknowledging God's presence in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, it was my opportunity to give all due respect to my grandmothers and my mother, because I'm a firm believer that had it not been for them nurturing the seeds of faith within me, I probably wouldn't be here today. Well, let me back up. I'm not going to say probably. I'm confident that I would not be here today. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the battles that we endure, and, I know everybody doesn't really share the Christian faith, and that's okay, but knowing everything that I've endured and I'm still standing, that's the work of God and Jesus Christ himself,
Mm-hmm.
So basically the harvest is my way of showing how I got through my most difficult moments with my seed of faith, from enlisting in the military and having difficulties there, to losing comrades, to battling PTSD from both combat and military sexual trauma. I mean, everything under the sun that someone could possibly go through, I think I've been through it.
Wow.
And the harvest for me, like I said, is to help that one person know that if we ultimately know who sustains us, we can be uprooted, replanted anywhere and survive.
Amen to that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I kind of just wanted to give somebody an opportunity to vicariously walk through my life, and be as transparent and as authentic as I possibly can to say, hey, this is how I made it out. And this is what works for me. So if another thing, it was my aha moment, my epiphany moment,
Mm-hmm.
I think, sometimes we wander this world in search of love, and in search of the worldly love, not realizing that the spiritual love that we invest within ourselves, that's really what's going to ultimately sustain us.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, because I've looked on to others to try to sustain me, and I think sometimes it's a love that's based upon expectations and conditions,
right?
So to experience the unconditional love that's provided to us through God first and foremost, and through His Son Jesus Christ, that's the most beautiful love there is. And it took me a long time to recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to provide a product or a revelation to provide that to that person out there who's battled the same things that I've battled but still struggling.
Right.
I can't think of a better way to let them know, how I made it, and if I can make it, you can make it too.
Exactly. And I think that's the part that's amazing with any person who's going through some struggles. Like I said, we all have them, and some, more strenuous than others. But at the end of the day, I think the reason why we make it is because of our belief and the faith that we have, that, like the saying goes, God never gives you too much that you can't handle. And, even though
right.
when you're going through that trauma, you don't always believe that at that moment, but then you realize that seed, like you said, that was planted within you through your family, that's what got you through it. So you knew that once you held on to that faith and grabbed it again, that was going to help you succeed, no matter what you're doing or what you were going through at that point in time in your life.
Oh yeah.
So absolutely looking forward to learning more about that book, because I love the name, The Harvest. It just stands out, and it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yes, and oddly enough, I most know it was the habit of authors. Majority of the authors that I've interacted with, they said they wrote the book first and then they chose the cover last. I'm the opposite. I chose the cover first, and I wrote whatever spoke to me based upon that cover.
Okay.
So yeah, and it was just like an aha moment, sitting there, and the harvest came to me, because because I'm a firm believer that, because on the front of the book is a picture of a sunflower, though, but just as the sunflower has to position itself before the sun in order to survive, I'm a firm believer that we have to position ourselves before God and before our faith in order to survive. So the cover in itself is symbolic, but I guess I'm just backwards type of writer. To choose the cover first and then to write second. So yeah, backwards.
Well, but like you said, that was your inspiration. So, I think that's a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, if you had a woman come up to you today and ask you about what it takes to be in business, what advice would you give her?
I would say it's diligence, and a strong commitment, whatever business endeavor you choose to embark upon, you're not going to know everything fresh out of the gate. You have to be willing to learn as you go along. I think sometimes for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, they think that they have to know everything in the beginning in order to be successful. And that's not always the case. Success is going to come the more you grind at it. But just understand that your level of knowledge and how you grow in your industry, you're going to acquire it. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we try to emulate others. We try to compare ourselves to a certain person's level of success. And once we become more inclined to keep doing that, then we miss out on the ability to grow and become success and develop the success that's unique to us as entrepreneurs. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I rationalize it. And that's how I would tell that particular woman that come up and ask me about the level of entrepreneurship. And don't be afraid to utilize all of the resources that's made available, and always be inclined to keep your toolbox open. Like they tell us in the military, build your toolbox, Arm McKinley.
That's right.
But you have to constantly be open to building your toolbox and open to the latest trends or a different avenue of how it is that you're trying to achieve growth in your business, and not be so consumed with being, how can I put it, so consumed with saying, oh, it has to be done this way on a straight and narrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it was no different. I mean, what you're talking about is, even in simpler terms, like we were talking earlier prior to, starting the interview, how I was saying, it's not about perfection. When we're doing the interview, it's about you being natural and everybody sharing their resources, their information, so that, people understand that we're human beings and that all the things that are surrounding you and what you're trying to provide to people, any little bit of information that you can give to a person or tip or whatever you want to call it, that's a good resource, because you never know where that tip is going to provide or where it's going to lead you to.
Right.
So excellent advice to give to anybody.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, then. So, can you tell the listeners how they can get a hold of you?
Yes, the listeners can go to my website to get in contact with me and to subscribe, and that's www.mercymckinley.com. That's www.mercymckinley.com. And I'm always open to feedback, dialogue, the ability to connect with others, so that's the best way to get a hold of me.
All right. Sounds good. Do you have any last words for our listeners?
Yes, I am a firm believer that negativity cannot grow where it is not fed. And, sometimes we separate ourselves from achieving our goals because we let negativity take over. So instead of feeding that negativity, we need to learn how to let it starve so we can grow in other areas. So, choose, I don't care if it's like 5 seconds or the next day or this minute or this hour, whatever negativity or negative thought that is going on and seeping in your mind, choose not to feed it with more negativity and sitting there and dwelling in negative thoughts. That'll be the greatest thing that I think I could tell any listener out there, because it's especially useful in business, because
right.
you're going to encounter all of the naysayers saying what you can and you cannot do, and if we keep letting the naysayers and, fuel that level of negativity, then it's going to put us farther and farther away from what it is that we intend to accomplish. So, sometimes instead of trying to prove the naysayers wrong with your words, you can prove them wrong with your actions, and it'll shut them up every time.
Boy, you got that right. Got that right, because you're always going to have somebody tell you what you can and cannot do, and they've never even tried it themselves. So, yes, absolutely. Well, that's excellent advice, and I want to say thank you for sharing your time with me this evening and coming on and talking to my listeners. And for everyone else, you all have a great rest of the evening, and we will see you next week.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.